So due to a recent controversy regarding Winx's new ICDD map, if you can even call that a controversy, I started thinking about map statistic standards and how they changed from the inception of OSU until now. Before I go into that subject, if you aren't aware of what controversy I'm talking about, here's a quick recap. Winx's new ICDD map got qualified and it had a flat AR of 9, which some people disagree with because of the map being over 7 stars, that it shouldn't be AR 9 because it doesn't play like an old map and that it looks worse because of it, etc. Think what you want about it, but that's not the point of this video. If I wanted to find out more about how the map statistic standards have changed from 2007 up until now, I had to get someone who had knowledge about OSU from back in those days and was still active in the community. Luckily, I got in touch with Mismagius and he shed some light on this subject. First, I'll start with the shortest one, and that is CS, aka circle size. Back in the early days, CS5 was widely used, but after finding out that CS4 was more comfortable to play around 2010/2011, people started using it more and it became the norm. High CS was taboo all the way up to 2013 until some mappers like Irreversible started making their extra difficulties with high CS, while most other mappers started using high CS for slower, more calmer songs that allowed them to make their maps more interesting and have more freedom over patterns, etc. Mismagius didn't have a lot to say about HP, but he mentioned that in the past, back when the star rating only went up to 5, HP 7 would bug out the star rating, making some maps like Freedom Dive go down to 2.5 stars. But unlike for these two, there is a lot more to talk about AR, and it has a quite interesting backstory. So back in 2007, OSU was just supposed to be an EBA/ON clone, so the AR was extremely low as the DS had bad frame rates and there was a lot of stuff going on the screen, so OSU's earlier maps that were INIS style, which means that they simulated ON maps, were extremely low AR, which would be around 3 to 5 for hard difficulties and around 8 to 9 for hard rock difficulties, which were basically the same maps that were flipped and had smaller CS. People didn't really know what they were doing, so the higher the difficulty was, the higher the AR was. But there was one catch. Back then, AR was directly tied to OD, which meant that the higher the AR was, the higher OD was as well. Playing AR10 OD10 was a really difficult thing to do back in the time between 2007 and 2010, as OSU was really unoptimized. Computers weren't as good as nowadays, and people played with barely any background themes, as you couldn't theme the background at all before, and they had storyboards and videos playing the background as well. Playing like that was a complete nightmare, as even AR8 seemed fast under those circumstances, so people stuck with AR6 to 7, sometimes using 8, and almost never using 9, and AR10 was deemed unplayable and unrankable. When 2010 rolled around, more and more people started deleting backgrounds of maps and started using black screens, which Pepe threatened to ban people over, and hard maps started getting really popular. People felt like ARs such as 7 and 8 were really hard to read, as maps got even harder and faster than before. And while the mappers had some issues understanding this at the time, high-ranked players were in favor for higher ARs, some of them even playing AR10 with ease. Eventually, the player base became divided, as some people just played with everything on, and others would delete all skin elements, etc., and were excited for a new era of high AR. The people who were against AR10 would often say that if you wanted to play AR10, you should just play with hard rock. A popular showcase of that opinion would be ZT Rot's Rainbow Dash map, which was AR9 despite its difficulty. There was also another problem that prevented mappers from making a compromise. AR was still tied to OD, and decimal AR didn't exist back then, so AR10 would also have to be OD10, which was really difficult for players. A great example of this would be the discussion if Mismagius' Airman map should be AR10 or 9, but eventually those two values became separated, and mappers would have more freedom over AR choice, and Airman ended up being AR-10 OD8. By the end of 2012, there were only 3 maps that were AR-10, and those being excluding 2007 and 2008 maps, which were Big Black, Airman, and ROG Unlimitation. Around 2013 and 2014, removing skin elements was a must, and hard maps were becoming more and more popular, and around 2014, Decimal AR became a thing, and more maps started being over AR9, and by the end of 2016, there were more maps with their AR over AR9 than AR9 maps. As for the modern day, Mismagius explained to me that the AR standard keeps going higher because of people wanting to read less and react more, which would lead to AR going higher and higher, and the standard now resides from 9.3 all the way up to 9.6, and who knows what the future holds for us as more players opt for reacting rather than reading. Nowadays, AR9 and lower are mostly considered gimmicks by the newer player base, and lower AR is often used as a special way to represent a song, or a gimmick rather than actually having a map that fits the lower AR. At the end of the day, mappers will map what players want to play the most, and right now they are high AR PP jump maps, mixed in with a little bit of PP streams as well. I hope that we get to see more variety soon, and I will always look forward to seeing maps that are specifically made for PP farming. Special thanks to Mismagius for helping me out and giving me the information about the history of the map statistic standards. And as always, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.